want to introduce a case study to you because we want to give you an idea of how all of this is going to look when put into practice. So you'll hear a little bit about Ben, who's a 23-year-old male with a diagnosis of autism, generalized anxiety, OCD, and ADHD. Since graduating from high school, Ben has not made progress toward personal or vocational goals. He is seeking DAR services to build job readiness skills and explore realistic vocational options. To prepare for work, Ben will need to learn the following: how to navigate public transportation, how to become more independent in making and keeping appointments, and improving his communication skills with non-family members. Ben's counselor referred him to the local ESO to participate in CSS to assess and improve these pre-vocational skills. So based on this case study, we're going to go in and look at how this looks in terms of the assessment plan and reports. So when looking at the assessment, we wanted to really give more guidance to our ESO partners with how this is going to look. So we want to look at using an ecological approach, and you're all like, okay, well, what's that? What does that mean? A couple things to consider. We want to make sure that we're looking at this in terms of whatever is relevant to that participant's needs based on their environment. We want to consider not just the people they live with and their point of view, but we want to hear from multiple people, such as, again, it could be other close relatives. If they're involved in any sports or social activities, we want to include information from them, because validity and getting information from other people is really important in building this assessment. We want to make sure that we're using multiple forms and various sources of data. So observation, conversation, interviews with other people, looking at assessment data. We want to make sure that we are interviewing parents and stakeholders, but also getting information about their day-to-day functional daily adaptive behavior. We want to look at their social skills, their maladaptive behaviors, and we want to make sure that we're looking at other skills that are related to functional limitations, such as self-care, money management, interpersonal skills, and that sort of thing. We mentioned earlier that ESOs would need to complete a comprehensive assessment at the beginning of services after they get the referral, and then also followed up by the CSS plan. So there are times in which a comprehensive assessment is not needed. And I just want to talk about some exceptions to doing the assessment. Please know that if an exception is being requested or made, a counselor does have to obtain managerial approval for that. But if there was already a CSS assessment done previously, and the participant has been doing well, and there has been fading, but let's just say that there are some things that need to be discussed, targeted barriers need to be readdressed. Because the ESO has already been working with that participant, they don't need to go again and do a new CSS assessment. They can pick up where they left off. In addition, if there's a team meeting and the counselor, the participant, all the members of the CSS team, if they agree that a full assessment isn't warranted to address a specific need, together they can decide that the assessment does not have to be completed. But again, that is a team decision. Those are just a few examples of when the exception to the assessment can be requested. And again, that needs to be documented with an actual service note. It needs to be approved by a manager as well. So Ashley's going to go ahead and talk to you a little bit more about Ben, the case study that we referenced a few slides ago, and the actual assessment itself.
Thank you, Sherrina. All right, so before we dive into the case study and specifically start with talking about the assessment, I'll remind you the steps that led to the assessment. So before Ben's first meeting with his job coach, the vocational rehab counselor and Ben as the participant discussed and agreed on the fact that CSS services would be of benefit. Releases were obtained for any relevant stakeholders. So again, that can be family members, that can be case managers, group home staff members, anybody that's relevant to Ben's success in community support services. And then the vocational rehab counselor referred Ben to the job coach company and authorized the necessary hours. So here you'll see an overview of what transpired to conduct Ben's CSS assessment. So Ben's job coach scheduled an in-person meeting with Ben and his mother, Karen, at their home. Ben presented as anxious and reserved during the meeting, providing limited verbal answers and deferring to his mother often for more detailed information. In addition to conversations surrounding Ben's support needs and personal goals, his job coach arranged a follow-up appointment with only Ben. During the subsequent meeting, Ben and his job coach met one-on-one to observe his communication skills without the intervention from his mother. During this meeting, Ben's job coach asked him to demonstrate his knowledge of public transportation by finding the website where bus routes are listed, identifying bus stops closest to his home, and walking with his job coach from home to the bus stop to time the trip. Ben expressed anxiety about taking a test ride on the bus that day and declined the opportunity. After completing the day's activities, Ben and his job coach scheduled a follow-up appointment for a community outing. Ben used the Google Calendar on his smartphone to document the appointment and was instructed to relay the information to his mother. When expected to self-manage his schedule, Ben missed his next appointment with his job coach and needed to reschedule. During the next meeting, Ben and his job coach met at a local thrift store to discuss prices of objects and practice communicating with non-family members by asking a sales associate for a price on an unmarked item, asking where to find specific products, and making conversation with another customer. Ben demonstrated significant anxiety with these activities. He required frequent prompting and de-escalation support from his job coach. So as you'll see in this example, a lot of information was gained over the course of several meetings. Some of that was observed through observation, interviews, and actual functional assessments of Ben's skill level. These assessments were done in the community and in the home over the course of time to see how Ben was able to progress. So this is an assessment rating form. You've looked at this before, but we have some data here now. So as you will see, this tool was developed. If you've ever had an opportunity to see the Medicaid waiver VIDES form, you'll probably notice some similarity in the definitions and frequency rating. So we are providing a definition for Ben's pre-rating of his skill set. So does he need no assistance with something, total assistance with something, and certainly everything in between? So when you have this form, there will be drop-down boxes for you to easily select your pre and post rankings. And you'll also have a one-click option to rank the frequency that he needs intervention with these things. So this tool is intended for use with our clients and their stakeholders. Now, certainly, we're asking our ESO partners to use their judgment. We don't think that it would be ideal to sit down and go through these items one by one with an individual. So if you want to summarize concepts or highlight a few areas to identify needs when you're doing a comprehensive assessment, that is perfectly fine. You're not expected to necessarily ask these question by question or just hand this form to participants and stakeholders to fill out. So this is a tool to be worked through as appropriate for that individual. And we understand that even though a VR counselor might refer an individual for CSS with some specific goals in mind, this tool may identify additional support needs that are going to be relevant to the participant's overall functioning in VR programming. So it's okay to come back to the team and say, hey, you made the referral knowing that Ben needed to learn the bus system, but we've also identified potential needs in these other areas. Let's talk about how to prioritize those needs and work that into the equation as necessary. All right. So you see again that everything aligns with the serious functional limitations and that ratings are given based on the amount of assistance needed and how frequently that support is needed. And that goes through the full document, through all of our serious functional limitation categories. And then this is just the last page to conclude those categories. So this is completed after the assessment activities.